so welcome back. Obviously this is training session number 2 for developing the children's observations and things. So this one we're going to focus on summaries, but before I start I'd like to just begin by paying my respect to the local indigenous people, the Guringai, the traditional custodians of this land where we are meeting up today. On behalf of the traditional custodians Guringai, I welcome you all. So just a quick overlap from last time. Obviously we went through the observation cycle and the planning cycle, and have any of you had any problems with the planning cycle? Has anything made sense? Have you struggled to do any observations, or you've all been pretty confident with it all, and it's all been working within the rooms? Yeah? Brilliant.
We're having a bit of trouble with planning out the observations, like for the follow-ons, like finding time to get that done, and like, is there any documents that we should be using to help us do that?
In respect to time, do you mean like time throughout your day, so in your routine you're not finding time?
It's sort of in the
or
routine,
in the
but
physical
also,
writing of the observation?
yeah, in the writing of it, so like we might be, I just think we're not setting enough time aside to get prepared.
Yeah.
That's just something we're struggling with.
Yeah. Okay, well yeah, for our personal experience, trying to find time to observations, I try to, I don't know how your programme is set out here, like within your particular room. I've had a look at a few of them, but you can always, I know when I was working in childcare that we had a little section for like small group focused experiences, so I'd write that on for the plan of the week, and I'd know that on that day I'd need to do this, so then we'd kind of plan observations around it. We'd let our team members know that today I really need to do this follow-on experience with Asher, like this, I really need to do this today, and also they can help you set aside time, and if it's a fact of getting like your resources ready, if you know that child's days are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you want to maybe do the follow-on on Wednesday, so they're a bit more settled than the Monday, you can make sure that on Tuesday night before you leave that you've got all the resources you needed. Say it's like counting bears, you've got the counting bears ready. Yeah, I don't know if that helps at all, but
Yeah, that's just one of the main struggles with
yeah, okay.
struggling.
But besides, like actually, so you're trying to get them done, the physical writing of the observations, has that all been pretty straightforward? And yeah, brilliant. Okay, so on this section we're going to be doing about children's summaries. So how, where and when for children's summaries. So the objectives of this training session are why summaries are important, knowing about relating government documentation and understanding it, obviously that goes with everything we do with childcare, understanding the 5 outcomes, we'll go through them, don't worry if you're not sure what the 5 outcomes are right now, and understanding how to effectively complete children's summaries. So yeah, that's pretty straightforward. We'll just go through it. So sometimes summaries can be called assessments, so that's why I've just put assessments in brackets, because in different, in mainly all your government documentation, you'll find that it says assessment, but you just use the word summaries here. So that's why I've just contextualised it so you can see the difference. So the term summary or assessment refers to the various ways educators learn about the children and how the children they work with. The early years learning framework, again obviously always using the ELF within documentation, defines assessments as the process of gathering and analysing information as evidence about what the children know, can do and understand. It is part of an ongoing cycle that includes planning, documenting and evaluating children's learning. So this is an actual direct quote out of the ELF. So it's basically just defining how you should assess children. Knowing the child well is essential for building a strong relationship where the child feels valued. These relationships are essential for children to learn. Deep, detailed knowledge of each child contributes significantly to plans for the curriculum of each programme. I'm going to go into more detail in making how, like, knowing the children later on. So obviously for January summaries, you're not going to really have made that bond with the child, and that's why they're slightly different to the June and the November summaries. But I said we'll go through that a bit later on. Summaries or assessments also provide evidence to educators, children and their families about the children's progress. So as educators, you'll obviously get lots of questions from parents who are always a bit more concerned. I was like, oh, like that child's speaking, like more than my child is, like are they okay? Or maybe it's more about, oh, they've got friends. And summaries are a really good way to give parents the information all set out for them under the outcomes, and they can feel a bit more secure about where their child is at. So just a bit about more about the relating government documentation. So in addition to assessing informally and keeping those summaries or assessments in mind, the National Quality Standard requires educators to document or record assessments of children's learning. So if you remember in the last training session, I gave you Quality Area 1, the handout, from the National Quality Standard. Obviously that again was about education, programme and practice. It just basically means that within the National Quality Standard, you have to document children's learning. Obviously when DECs come around to assess the centre, they will be making sure that you are assessing their learning, and this is the same for the summaries. Even though you're not observing the child particularly that month, it's still an assessment of their learning, so they still need to be happening. The learning outcomes in the ELF, when understood in detail, offer a broad and rich perspective on learning. Deep understanding of the learning outcomes expands rather than limits educators' ideas about children's learning. So again, we went over the ELF briefly last time, and I just explained that obviously all the outcomes, it's your interpretation of them. So yeah, so as long as you can explain why you used it, you're free to use that outcome. But I thought we'd go over the outcomes more specifically now, because for the summaries you actually have to write under each outcome what the child is achieving from the outcome. So having a better understanding will really help you to do that. Has everyone seen the outcomes before and used them? Yeah. So this is just a bit more relating government documentation. So again, this is just a little section that I actually got out of Quality Area 1. So it's the handout that I gave you in the last session. But this is directly related to summaries. That's why I just thought I'd put that up there. So I'll give you a minute just to read them. They're just under Quality Area 1. So obviously each child's learning and development is assessed as part of an ongoing cycle of planning, documentation and evaluation. This links to both the observations and the summaries. Each child's current knowledge, ideas, culture, abilities, interests are the foundation of the programme. Obviously this is the same, it's both the observations and the summaries. So you're making sure that you've got, you know, their current knowledge, and that's why you're doing the summaries. That's why you're doing 3 of them. You're doing the January, the June and the November, because it's up to current. Because if they leave in the December and you've only got the June assessment, that's not where they're currently at. So elements that relate to assessment or summaries in the ELF. The ELF enables effective planning, communication about children's learning and progress, awareness of all children's learning progress, reduction of impediments to learning progress. So this is really in your summaries when you're going to say if they've got a goal or something. Yeah.